Right. Once again, we live. Pep Talk UK. Pro Beez, Benji Boxing. It is a party once more. Benji, how you been, mate?
Hello all. Back with Pro Beez. I'm running out of adjectives. I'm running out of things to say about how good it is to always be invited onto your platform in your house. Just talking before we came live on air, talking about the interview that you did with Tundi. Everyone, if you've not seen the interview with Tundi, go and watch it. Just go and watch it. However you feel about the guy, it's hugely entertaining. You've got another fantastic interview from Mr. Pro Beez on Pep Talk UK. Well done.
Oh, thank you, mate. Thank you. Big thank you to Tunde. He didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So big thank you to Tunde. And that kind of leads me on to what you thought of the fight over the weekend. Lyndon Arthur victorious over Anthony Yarde. You watched the fight. What was your immediate impressions?
You know what? It's one of those things that you contacted me last night to do this chat, and immediately I said, "Oh, well, what are we going to talk about?" And you said, "Oh, we'll talk about Anthony Yarde and last week's boxing." That, and I sit in bed thinking about what I'm going to say on this, and as soon as you hit me with that, I don't know whether it's because there's so many thoughts and feelings about it, and they all want to come out at once, but it almost kind of goes blank. So it's almost like a case of, well, where do you start? Do you start with talking about the decision and it being a close fight and did the right man win? Do we talk about Lyndon Arthur only having one hand, or seemingly only having one hand through the majority of the fight? Do we talk about tactical decisions that both corners made during the fight? There's a hell of a lot to unwrap here. The first and foremost, the fight wasn't as exciting and entertaining as I hoped it would be. I thought that Anthony Yarde would be a lot more aggressive and a lot more effective than what he actually was. And from that point of view, I was a little bit disappointed with the way that it panned out. It was very much a jab fest. And I was doing my live tweeting during the contest, and I lost track of how many times I tweeted out after a round. I don't understand Anthony Yarde's tactics here. Anthony Yarde, for me, has always been obviously a very physically dominating person. He's very big at the weight. He's a big, strong lad. But to be revolving around the jab the way that he was and jabbing with a jabber, that didn't make much sense to me, especially as it became more and more apparent that Arthur wasn't really throwing the right hand for whatever reason. I thought, I don't understand why Yarde is trying to have a jabbing contest when he needs to force a little bit more. The footwork of Yarde was a bit disappointing. Instead of cutting the ring off and stopping Arthur from moving, he seemed to be following Arthur around the ring, which caused him to eat more jabs than he had to. There seemed to be a lack of a plan B there from the Yarde camp. Lyndon Arthur, though, it's another, people have said it's another second week in the row where we're talking too much about the boxer who didn't win, and we're not talking about enough about the boxer who did win. Lyndon Arthur did a great performance of jabbing. He showed how effective a jab coupled with good footwork and movement and the right tactical game plan, how effective these things can be when they come together. And it's almost like at times he didn't need the right hand. When the contest was over, I was reading on Twitter, a lot of people were of the opinion they didn't want to see a rematch because it wasn't that interesting a fight. It wasn't, a blood and guts battle. It wasn't that kind of close fight. It was a close fight because of the caginess and the jabbiness of the whole thing. But to be honest, I'd quite like to see a rematch because I'd like to see how Arthur gets on with two good hands rather than just revolving around the one. So those are sort of the first and foremost ideas that come into mind with this thing. But, you know, there's just so much to unpack from this fight. And I think people are going to be tweeting and talking about it for quite a long time to come yet.
All right. All right. We welcome the viewers for coming in. All right. They're coming in slowly. They're coming in slowly. You know, we start slow. We try and warm up. I put the heating on as well to help with that. So, all right. Let me just shout out some of the people that have come in. Connor Kelly. I'm sat in prison. All right, mate. Keep your head up, man. Keep your head up, man. All right. Jim McDonald Boxing. Welcome, mate. Luke Beresford, mate. Absolute patron to the live chats. All right. Shout out Pep Talk. Looking forward to AJ fight. Let's read this comment. Because a lot of talk is about Fury ringside. I hope they ain't taking their eye off Pulev. What do you reckon, Benji? To be fair, it's naturally distracting, right? That's like the biggest fight that you can make. If Fury sat there ringside, to be fair, it can go both ways. You can be distracted, or you can be even more motivated about the biggest fight that there is, and really lay a marker down on Pulev.
As far as I'm concerned, if they can get Tyson Fury there, he needs to be there. This is how you promote fights. This is how you build them up. We want to see AJ and Fury face to face, nose to nose. You know, of course, I want AJ to win. You know, no brainer. I want Anthony Joshua to win this fight. I'm an AJ fan. I can't hide that bias at all. If supposing Anthony Joshua wins this fight, I want Tyson Fury to jump in that ring, WWE style, get the mic on the two. This is how we build. This is how we build a mega fight. It's got to happen. From a point of view of pressure, though, I mean, Anthony Joshua's a big boy. He's boxed at Wembley. He's sold out Cardiff. All these things. He's not, you know, done it on the world stage. Having Tyson Fury at ringside, he should have the mental fortitude, and I believe he does, to cope with that. And to be honest, Tyson Fury, if he's got anything about him at all, he should want Anthony Joshua to win this fight. If AJ doesn't win this fight and it puts a potential showdown between him and Fury at risk, that should bother Fury. The payday, the money involved on, you know, 1, 2, or 3 fights between AJ and Fury, it's massive money. If I was Tyson Fury, if I was ringside, even if it's just privately, I'd be thinking, come on, AJ, knock him out, because the event is massive, or the potential for 1, 2, or 3 events between AJ and Fury is so massive. Fury should want AJ to win this. He really should. But yeah, make it happen. I really hope Fury's going to be there. Really hope he is.
How do you think AJ is going to cope with being out of the ring for a year? A lot has changed since then. No fans, potential of ring rust. Pulev he hasn't taken a lot of damage. You know, he hasn't taken a lot of damage. He hasn't been in a lot of hard fights. So there are some dangers that are there. But AJ is a consummate professional.
Yeah. I think there's massive dangers here. I mean, I can't wait. Look, Saturday night, it's my brother's birthday on Saturday. And obviously, because of the situation that we're all living in at the moment, you can't go out and party or go to restaurants or do what you normally would. So brother and his wife are coming over. As a little family, me and my wife, him and his wife, was going to watch this thing together, get the food in, all that sort of thing. So we can't wait. But I tell you, I'm not going to be particularly relaxed watching this fight. I'm going to be on the edge of my seat because we've got the ring rust aspect. We've got the fact that this is there's not going to be many fans there at all. We've seen Dillian White have a slip up with Povetkin. In my opinion, there is a hell of a lot of pressure on Anthony Joshua because he's coming off the 2 fights with Ruiz. The first one obviously wasn't great. The second one, he played it a little bit safe. Let's face it, he won the contest hands down, no problem. But it was a safe performance. It was a safe 12-round performance. Pulev, I think people are underestimating him. Fair enough, he ain't a spring chicken anymore. Well, he's 39. Come on, let's face it, 39 ain't that old. But in terms of boxing and being a professional athlete, 39 is getting on a little bit. He's only ever been beaten by one person, that being Vladimir Klitschko. Everyone else he's beaten. And I don't think he's had much in the way of close fights. I mean, last time I saw him box was Hughie Fury, and I thought he dealt with that quite comprehensively. So Pulev, he has dealt with a number of different styles. There's not a lot that he hasn't seen in the ring. He's got a pretty decent chin as well. So there is definitely possibilities of slip-ups. There's banana skins everywhere, and it is down to Anthony Joshua's professionalism, his team's professionalism, the tactics they employ to make sure that, one, he is ready for this. He's not underestimating this opponent. He's not looking past and looking at Fury. Having Fury at ringside can't take away his focus. And hopefully, from the whole Ruiz saga, hopefully AJ is now well aware of, you have to focus on what is in front of you. Don't underestimate anyone, and be fully aware at all times, So hopefully he can come through this. But I don't think this is... I think there's a lot more pressure on Anthony Joshua here than people are actually giving him credit for.
100. And also as well, I've got to say, as time keeps passing, his resume looks in good nick, I must say. I think if you look at the fighters that Anthony Joshua's beaten, the top 10 contenders, it stands out there as a solid record. I've got to say that,
Yeah.
And that's no bias. I'm just saying the truth. Povetkin, Joseph Parker, there's Dillian White on there. Klitschko, mate, there's... Well, he's got that names on that resume.
It's getting to that point now where if it, touch wood, hopefully he does beat Pulev. Once you've got Pulev on there, you with Anthony Joshua, you start getting to this question of, well, who is there left to beat? There's obviously Fury, and you could say Wilder still. Fair enough. Wilder's not gone away. I mean, Fury, I think, has taken Wilder down a peg or two, in my opinion, but he's still there. A lot of people still going to see him as a very dangerous operator. But it's amazing that, at this point in Anthony Joshua's career, we're already getting close to a stage where we're saying, well, who is left to beat? Who hasn't he beat? Who hasn't he boxed? I think we've got a little bit of an issue. I can't hear Pro Beez.
All right, guys.
There we go. We're back.
Thanks for joining. Smash that like button. We are just chill out a little. I'm sure he's going to jump on real soon.
There we go. We're back. Pro Beez, am I coming in clear? Okay.
All right, just bear me
can you hear me?
One moment.
Yeah, you're dropping out a little bit, mate.
Having a few technicals. All right. We go again. You back in? I'm just going to change over my... Yeah, I think it's my connection. I'm going to just change my connection. One second, mate.
Matey. While Mr. Beez is doing that, we can always have a look through the chats. Who's the greatest heavyweight of all time? In my opinion,
so a few technicals.
The greatest heavyweight of all time is Muhammad Ali. That is the GOAT for the ring. Yeah, I'm here, mate. I can hear you just about. Nordic Kingdom says, I don't have faith in AJ's punch resistance. Hey, look, at heavyweight, anyone can knock anyone else out, in my opinion. When you've got a big heavyweight boxer, 16, 17, 18 stone plus, they can all bang at that weight. So it's not necessarily just about AJ's punch resistance, but I think he's going to have to keep especially his right glove stuck to his chin for this fight. He does not want to be letting his guard down against Pulev. All these questions are going to need to be answered. What else we got on there? Any other questions? Just while we're waiting for Mr. Pro Beez to get back. And he's probably texting me right now. Or not, it might just be the wife. Joshua always takes 2 to 3 rounds to recover when tagged. Someone says, good fight for Arthur if he beats Yarde again. As I said to you before, I'd like to see the rematch. I'd happily watch the rematch of Yarde and Arthur. Be interesting to see if Yarde can change things up, come out with some different tactics. Arthur, I'd like to see him box with 2 hands, see what he could do. Mr. Beez is back.
Mate, excuse my modem, right? It's not Wi-Fi around here. Not enough subscribers. So subscribe, then maybe I can get some decent Wi-Fi. All right, guys? All right. All right, Benji, where were we?
I was just going through some of the comments and things. Someone's just called, what's going on with the beard, Benj? You've changed since your old channel days. It's the COVID beard. Oh, shit. I said the wrong thing there. Shouldn't be saying that word. Shouldn't be saying that word on YouTube.
Raw uncensored.
Yeah, you know what this is one of my best friends. He's my best friend and my boss. He's a young lad called Tom. And unfortunately, Tom suffers from something called spinal muscular atrophy, which means he can't really move from the neck down. And so he spends pretty much all his days either in bed or in a wheelchair. And he's like heavily into this whole Viking culture, like proper into Vikings. And he's always been on at me to grow a beard. So what I wanted to do during this whole episode was, while I'm not allowed to see Tom, you see, I can't see him because he's immunocompromised. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to grow this sort of Viking type beard out? And then when I actually do get to see my friend again, you know, I'm going to have the Viking beard ready for him. So that's kind of the idea behind it. For my friend Tom. There you go.
We should actually call this the Beard Gang podcast. How about
that?
Yeah.
How
about that? Yeah, the Beard Gang podcast. All right. Viewers, thanks for joining. They're coming in slowly, but look, we're going to have fun, man. We're going to have fun. All right. So Nordic Kingdom, where's Wingy Boxing? I really like his channel. Very good channel. He's from your end. What happened to Wingy? Do you know him?
Well, we kind of spoke about this a little bit after the first one of these things that we did, because I said, like, the whole seems like a lot of the landscape of YouTube boxing commentary seems to have changed. Wingy was an interesting guy because we used to comment on each other's channels, and I went to see live boxing. It was a Leon Woodstock fight. And O'Hara Davis was top of the bill that night as well, in a really dull, boring fight. But Wingy was there, and I think he was with IFL. And I actually got to speak to him. I said, "Hey, Wingy, how you doing? It's Benji." "Oh yeah, mate," and all that sort of thing. But it's weird how he sort of went over to IFL, did a load of stuff with them, but I went to look for his boxing channel the other day, and it's not there anymore. I don't know whether it was to do with stuff to do with IFL, or that he couldn't have his own channel. I really don't know, but I think it's quite a loss, because I did really like him. I thought he had a lot of personality. He brought a lot to it. He didn't, you know, it wasn't. He never made silly, disrespectful remarks or comments, or, you know, he never deliberately went out to cause beef with anyone. So I think Wingy was a really good bloke. So, you know, whatever happened, maybe he'll come back to the boxing thing and everything. But I think we need more people like Wingy that are willing to start channels and commentate and talk and all this sort of thing. So,
all right, okay. You mentioned IFL TV in the house. Hey, welcome, lads. If that's really IFL, welcome, lads. Hope you're all right. Looking forward to a big fight this week. Joshua Pulev. Welcome from the bubble, right? Welcome from the bubble. All right, Benji, I got to ask you about Spence against Danny Garcia. Did it look like Spence was never away? Because he kind of put the pressure on Danny Garcia differently.
Yeah. Danny Garcia, in my opinion, looked a bit shocked during round one. During round one, he had a sort of look on his face of, what the hell am I going to do with this guy? Right from the off, Spence was working a jab down to the body. It reminds me of what Mayweather used to do. He didn't do it so much in the later stage of his career, but Mayweather used to have this fantastic, fast jab to the stomach, right into the solar plexus, and he used to drain opponents with it. It didn't look like much when he was doing it, but as the rounds went on, and Spencer's got a similar sort of thing. He also steps in really well with the jab, so Spence will be well out of range. And again, Floyd used to do this, be well out of range, but he could step in so fast and be in and then back out of range with that sort of spearing shot. So Spence was using that. He had his backhand, Spence's southpaw. So it was the left hook. He had this sweeping backhand that kept sort of coming out of Garcia's vision, then coming back in. And it was about by round 6 or 7, Danny Garcia was looking pretty beat up. I mean, Garcia had some successes. His own backhand wasn't bad. He was throwing a good straight right hook. The left hook was missing, considering that's Danny Garcia's honey punch. There didn't seem to be a hell of a lot left hook going in there, but he looked like a man that was completely out of ideas by about round 6 or 7. And as I say, it was as early as round 1. He had a look on his face that was sort of, I've got some problems here. But Errol Spence, it's like he wasn't away. I thought it was a fantastic performance. The way he marched forward as well, walked the opponent down, gave Danny Garcia very little in the way of respect. Fantastic performance, really was.
Yeah, and nobody does that to Danny Garcia, not in that fashion. No. You don't get stopped. You don't really get, sort of dominated like that. So good performance for a guy that's had a major accident and has been out of the ring for quite a while. I thought he did well. What did you make of Danny Garcia, though? Some people have said that he should have really put the pedal to the metal, as it were, and really tested Spence for, his time out of the ring and after and him basically having that major accident.
Yeah, I mean the commentary team that I was listening to was Lennox Lewis, Goosen, and I can't remember who. But I mean, was it Joe Goosen or Dan Goosen? I always get those two mixed up. And Lennox Lewis. So you've got people who really know their boxing. Both of them sort of said at the end of the fight, that last 10 seconds, because I think it was the last 10, 20 seconds of round 12, Danny Garcia went for it and really attacked. And they said, well, he should have been doing that since round 2. He should have been doing that throughout the whole fight, going in bursts at it. So I think tactically, Garcia, he definitely got it wrong. But Garcia's footwork didn't look very good. He wasn't up on his toes. He wasn't very light on his feet. He was very plodding, very sort of flat-footed. And it was only the other week when we had one of these conversations where I was saying Danny Garcia's footwork has got a lot better. He's a lot lighter on his feet now. Basically, proved me wrong.
Yeah. And that's it. I think we did mention, last week that Danny Garcia, he's got power, no doubt about it, especially that left hook of his. But against these elite guys, you're going to have to show some variation. And we kind of compared that with Deontay Wilder, that one punch power. Once that gets sussed out, it's about game plan B, C, and potentially D to beat these Terence Crawfords, to beat these Errol Spence Juniors. You understand? And that maybe was his undoing. Yeah. Maybe. But he's still a good fighter. And do you know what? His resume stands up and he's only lost to good fighters.
Yeah.
No shame in that.
it's a stacked division. It's an absolute stacked division. And Danny Garcia is now, he's boxed Spence, he's boxed Thurman, he's boxed Porter. You know, right there, that's 3 top guys, you know. So the other thing with the only thing that worries me kind of a little bit with Danny Garcia is, has he been at his best? Is he on the slip a little bit now? What more has he got to offer? Because he's just been in there with Spence with a massive amount of punch variety, can change things up. And Danny Garcia did look like he was a little bit, he didn't have that plan B or C. And I just wonder now if his feet are starting to slow down a little bit and his punch power is not having the effect that, you know, he'd like it to. I think it's very difficult to see where Danny Garcia goes now. I mean, people use the term gatekeeper a lot in this. You know, you could easily see Danny Garcia turning into a gatekeeper, but you have to sort of ask the question: well, how long has he got left to be challenging these guys to win a world title at 147? And while you've got Crawford and Spence about, you know, in that division, getting titles is going to be really, really difficult. But you never know. I mean,
all right,
Danny Garcia might. Oh, here we go. Master Knowledge is here.
Mid-flow, we've got Master Knowledge in the building. Spencer Fearon. All right, just clicked up. Okay, so we'll get Spencer back momentarily. All right, so you were making a point.
Well, you know, you never know. If Danny Garcia could always get offered maybe a Pacquiao fight, something like that, I think that would be quite a decent fight. You never know, and obviously it'd be a massive payday for him. So I don't know. It's just difficult for me to see where Danny Garcia goes from here.
Well, if he is a gatekeeper, he's a wealthy gatekeeper.
Yes,
ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
All right, we've got a comment here. Dio Benanu, Lyndon versus Callum Johnson. Can you imagine that?
Why not? Be a good fight, I think.
Callum Johnson, very dangerous guy. Very, very dangerous.
I haven't seen him box for a while, I have to say.
Yeah, he's been active for, I think, almost 2 years. But when he fought Beterbiev, he almost done the job and won that world title. Maybe if he was a little bit more in for the kill, he might be a world champion now. You know, let Beterbiev come back. Yeah.
He had that win over Frank Buglioni back in 2018. Yeah.
That's when I really took note of Callum Johnson because I remember Buglioni was the favorite at the time.
Massive favorite, yeah.
And I mean, very impressive victory when he stopped Buglioni.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was going to be kind of, well, it was the springboard. Should have been the springboard, but then you're springboarding into Artur Beterbiev. Kind of takes the wind out of the sails a little bit, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, Callum Johnson, that would be a great fight to get him back in the mix of things, you know?
100%. All right, guys, get your questions in. Smash that like button. Pro Beez Benji from Benji's Boxing. You remember his channel? Well, he's back on air, but this time with a big goatee. All right. I think in the days of your channel, you had no beard.
Oh, I had a clean-shaven baby face, mate.
There you go. You see what lockdown does? You see what lockdown does?
This is it.
All right. Okay. So Nash Online. Garcia looked deflated after 4 to 5 rounds. I think he should have a few easy fights, then go for Kell Brook or Pac-Man. Kell Brook, Danny Garcia, good fight. Good fight.
Is Kell Brook going to continue? Is he made anything sort of clear on what he's going to do with his career? But I mean, if Kell Brook does decide to continue, then I think Danny Garcia, Kell Brook is that is a very good fight. But I just, you know, Kell Brook's one of these boxers that you get to a certain point with the injuries. He's been in with Golovkin, been in with Spence. Those were difficult fights. Just been in with Crawford, got stopped. You do sort of think to yourself, well, is carrying on the best thing for him? I don't know. What give us some input, Mr. Beez.
Kell Brook, for me, still got maybe a few fights left in him. But, some people, they're talking about the loss to Crawford, but Crawford is elite, pound for pound, right? So there is a cluster of fighters beneath that, which can be very competitive. So, I don't think he's done. I think there's still some good fights out there for him. Yeah, that Amir Khan fight, public interest has probably waned on that. But you said Danny Garcia, good fight. Sean Porter, Kell Brook, 2. Interesting.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
What did you make of the first fight between them?
Sean Porter and Brook.
Yeah, the first when he won the world title.
Yeah, I thought it was close. I thought it was a close fight. I thought Kell looked good. I thought he rose to the occasion. Again, we've said this a number of times. Certain boxers, they elevate the game when the opponent is better. And Kell Brook had to do that. I thought it was a very good fight. As I say, it was competitive. Sean Porter was in it from start to finish. They traded blows. It was a good mix of styles. Whether they can recreate that in a second fight, I mean, it's interesting. Who would you say was the fresher man? Would you say that, Brook's fresher now, or would you say that Porter was fresher now? Because since that contest, both of them have been in, with top level guys, and had hard contests since. But saying that, Porter hasn't had the eye damage.
Exactly.
Brook has.
Exactly. So definitely for me, Sean Porter's fresher. Those eye injuries, mate, it's both eyes for Kell Brook.
Yeah.
So pretty serious.
The other thing I'd say as well is who's more, if they boxed again at 147, who's more comfortable at the weight? Because I think that Sean Porter would probably be more comfortable at 147 these days. I'm not sure how comfortable Kell Brook is at 147.
All right. RDR Films, Garcia is too reserved pep. He has to do things he's uncomfortable with. Okay, so I honestly thought he would have pressed the action a little bit more against Errol Spence and try and take him into deep waters after that accident and for the inactivity. And maybe the left hook is there. It's a fantastic left hook, but I believe in game plans that have a bit of variety. And when you're against these elite guys, you saw Errol Spence Jr., he was on the balls of his feet, moving around the ring, putting his shots together. Danny Garcia maybe could have done a bit more, but Angel Garcia, his old man, has said the same thing. Danny, you could have done more. But look, it's easy to talk, It's easy to eat hamburgers on the couch and talk, and have a stuffed crust pizza whilst watching the fight. When you're in there with a beast like Errol Spence Jr., the man that they call the truth, it's a lot harder.
Absolutely.
So,
everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
That's it. Or they take a body shot.
Yeah.
All
absolutely.
right. IFL TV. I don't actually think this is the real IFL, but nevertheless, that's what it says. All right. Yarde versus Alpha. Did anyone notice at the end of the first 5 rounds, Yarde was heading back to the wrong corner, also returned to the ring without his gum shield? Now, this is what I asked Tunde, but what was your opinion on
that? Round 5, you know what? I actually can't remember these sort of specifics. Maybe I was having a chat with my brother in between rounds. I have seen boxers go back to the wrong corner at the end of rounds before. I think, again, and it's kind of a little bit the same with the gum shield. I think, when these boxers are in there and they're so concentrated and they're moving around and whatever, I'm not surprised that a boxer can get disorientated a little bit. When the bell goes, they stop boxing, but that doesn't mean the brain switches off from what they're currently doing. So I think it can be a little bit harsh to sort of go on these things. And the same with the gum shield. The focus can be on so many other things tactically that it can be kind of it can happen. I mean, in the interview with Tunde, he rightly so, he did say this has happened to other people, and that's fair enough. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that, especially if you do it more than once in the one fight, that you have to hold your hands up and say, yeah, I made a little bit of a boo-boo there. And, look, standards have got to be high. This is professional boxing. So forgetting things like the gum shield and that, okay, if it happens once, it happens once. If it's happening more than once or twice, you start to look a bit foolish, So, but I just, just to balance that out a little bit, I do think people go a little bit overboard with these criticisms sometimes. When you're in the heat of battle, when you're really focused on what is a physical chess match, things are going to slip your mind a little bit.
All right. Daniel Simmons, it says he didn't see the right hand until round 10 either. Observation on Tunde. I mean, what's your opinion on that? Tunde obviously stated in the interview. If you ain't seen the interview already, go into the Pep Talk UK homepage. You'll see Tunde Jai interview from last night, and he explains all the answers to your questions. What's your opinion on the right hand?
I thought it was before round 10. Because I do remember being in the corner, Tunde saying, I don't think he's got, I think he's hurt his right hand. I thought it was before round 10. And he told Anthony Yarde, he's hurt his right hand, go out and stick it on him. And within the first 20 seconds of the round, Arthur threw a right hand and it landed flush. And because I can remember saying, because me and my brother were both sort of saying, right, they know about the right hand now. Yarde's going to go out, put it on him, and then bam, walk straight to a right hand. I said, I wonder if Yarde will go back to the corner at the end of this round and say, no, he has got a right hand, because he just hit me in the face with it. So I think, yeah, if the opponent isn't throwing the right hand, it is down to the corner to pick up on that and see it as soon as possible. Because let's face it, what I'd say a big part of the corner is being that extra set of eyes to tell their boxer what the boxer may not notice because he's focused on hitting and not getting hit. It is the corner's job to pick up on little nuances, little movements and things that the opponent is doing so that they can form the game plan to react to that in the next round and as the fight moves on. So if you're not seeing that an opponent has got a weakness or has got an injury or is not throwing a punch or is doing something that you can capitalize on, if you're not seeing that, it's not good. It really isn't good because that's what you rely on the corner to do. But if you haven't seen the interview with Tunde, you've got to go and watch it. You really have, because, all of this comes up. Go and hear it from the horse's mouth to what he thinks of all these things. For my own personal opinion, I do think there was things lacking in the Anthony Yarde corner and from Yarde himself. I think that shortcomings from both the corner and the boxer were on full display during that fight. And I do think there's plenty they can work on, and it's how they work on it. I think Anthony Yarde is a hell of a talent. I really do. But he's not the finished article yet. And there are things they need to work on so that a repeat of last week's fight doesn't happen again. But unfortunately, I think there is a danger of that happening, but we'll see.
All right. The thoughts of Benji. All right. Okay. So Audi alias TT, Pep, it was the 8th round about the right hand. Okay. We stand corrected. All right. Well, look, I think Benji, we've got to sort of give some credit to Lyndon Arthur as well. It was a close fight. And anyone that knows Lyndon Arthur knows that he's a good boxer, right? I spoke to Joshua Boatsi about him. This was about a year ago, and he said Lyndon Arthur is a good fighter. He's a good fighter. I think they were on Team GB together back in the day. So this guy's been about, he's studied his craft, he's had a good amateur career, and he's shown himself to be a good boxer, on the big stage. So we got to give some credit to Lyndon Arthur. I've not been hearing a lot of credit, to be honest.
Look, he beat Anthony Yarde effectively with one hand, right? Let's just let that sink in a little bit here. With one hand and very good footwork, he beat Anthony Yarde in my
Spencer. Can we get Spencer? How you doing, mate?
Yeah, bro, but I told you it don't work. It doesn't work for me. I can
the screen
very
not.
distorted.
Okay. We got you loud and clear here, though. I think you're good now.
I tried to phone you. Maybe you could guide me through. I've got my laptop here in front of me. I don't have to do it, mate.
Okay, all right. I'll tell you what. We'll catch up on a Zoom then. I'll message you.
Well, it's clear now.
Oh, so, all right. Cool. How's things?
Yeah, everything's blessed my end, man.
Yeah. We're just kind of getting into the whole mix about the fight on the weekend, Yarde and Arthur. We haven't really spoke about it, on air. We haven't done an interview about it so far, but the questions are coming in via live stream. Spencer's now in the building. If you want to fire away some questions to Spencer Fearon, he's here. Benji and Spencer Fearon in the building. So, all right, Spencer, just before the questions come in, what's your say on the fight that transpired over the weekend? Yarde and Arthur.
I'm saying close fights are close fights. Close fights are not robberies. Right? And by Tundi and Yarde's own admission, I think Yarde put it out. He scored the fight 7-5 to himself. Tundi scored the fight 7-5 for himself as well, for his team. So that's how they saw the fight. So 7-5, 2 rounds difference. That could have gone either way. Close fights are close fights. Close fights are not robberies. And the fight was more to do with the things that Anthony Yarde didn't do to what the things that Lyndon Arthur did do. And it's no disrespect to Lyndon Arthur. I'm just saying that the narrative of the fight was that Anthony Yarde was meant to go out there and just blow out Lyndon Arthur. And he didn't blow him out. So if he didn't blow him out, and then people are sitting at home, and the majority of people were kind of getting or feeling a matter of despair to think, how comes Anthony Yarde ain't just dealt with this guy? How comes Anthony Yarde ain't opened up for him? Everyone's looking back to all the other fights that he's had, the 18 or 19 knockouts that he's had, and thinking like, this guy's meant to go the same way. And it didn't go the same way. So what I'm saying is, close fights are close fights. And what we shouldn't do, we shouldn't take away nothing from Lyndon Arthur, because he executed a very, very good game plan. You know what I mean? And it was more of trickery. Like, you know what? I'm not even going to hit you too hard to anger you. I'm just going to pepper away, and collect points. And boxing is very, very subjective. Now, I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. The things that we're taught in boxing, straight off of the bat, is when you walk into a boxing gym, is how to stand in your stance, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, whether you're going to be orthodox or southpaw, right? How to hold your hands, right? And the first punch you'll learn is how to jab, right? The first thing that you learn. So the fundamentals and to the authenticity of the sport, you'll learn how to jab. Somebody was administering a jab to the authenticity of the mindset of the judges where they could comprehend it. Anthony Yarde's jabs were more a la Floyd Mayweather, where he's throwing, but he's snatching it back. Lyndon Arthur was throwing it, and he was trying to explode on target and not punch through target. So he would find a range and throw out the jab. So whose jab, even though, and I like to see a ConcuBox on this, or how many punches were thrown. So when you see that, then you're going to go for the guy who's administering that work that you can comprehend. And also, the hype of Anthony Yarde and what's been going on behind Anthony Yarde is this. You'll get built up, and when you do something which is unconventional, as Tundi has done, right? Tundi's done something that's unconventional. That winds up people, because when you're unconventional, people look at it like, you know, who do you think he is? This is how it goes. This is the game. You know what I mean? And this happens on many occasions. But what I'm saying is, I understand why Arthur got the decision. And I'm just being honest with it. I understand why he got the decision. Do I rightly ask it to Tundi? Go watch the fight. Turn off the sound. Just watch the fight and judge it. And everybody else turn off the sound, watch the fight. Now, there's certain things that Yarde did in a fight that wasn't picked up by commentary, and we're sitting at home saying, yeah, he ain't done nothing then. You know what I mean? But end of the day is what it is. Now, Richie Woodall is the most unbiased human being on the planet. Seriously. I'm telling you this now. Richie Woodall's an alien. I've known Richie for a very, very long time. He ain't from here. You know what I mean? His mindset, how he sees things, he's the coolest guy that you could see. He's just one of those guys. He doesn't rock the boat. He scored the fight for Anthony Young. You know what I mean? He scored the fight 1 round to Anthony Young, and it was based on the last round. So if he scored the fight for Anthony Young, and this is the most unbiased person on the planet saying this, then obviously it was a close fight. But I'm not taking away nothing from Lyndon Arthur. We shouldn't take nothing away from him, because he's the guy who went out there and executed the game plan to the best of his knowledge, and he came out victorious. So let's props the guy. Let's not props him. Let's props him. Let's big him up, man.
Benji, I'm going to allow you to ask Spencer a few questions before we get to the fans. Shoot, the knowledge is in the building.
Hi, how you doing? First of all, good to see you. Good to meet you. I suppose my question straight away would be, in a rematch between the two, what would you want to see Anthony Yarde change up? Do you think he's capable of changing these things up? And how would you see a rematch going?
You know what? There's certain things that needs to be addressed within Anthony Yarde. It's been a very emotional year for him, as we know. Like, he lost family members to COVID and stuff. It's been an emotional year. Hence why he said after the fight, like, you know, this happening to me now is just capped off or summed up what 2020 was to me. But at the same time, what I'd like to see him do, I've spoken to Tundi already, so I don't really want to let off too much of the game. Me and Tundi's spoken, you know what I mean? And one thing I'm not going to do, if you're my mate, you're my mate. I don't need to go on a public platform and say anything derogatory about you when I know I can pick up the phone and say it to you. You know what I mean? And if I'm saying something and it's out of love, it's not derogatory. Because out of love. You know what I mean? There's no hidden agendas behind it. I would say, well, Yarde, whereas Tundi watches fights, but he doesn't really watch fights. We have to remember, we have 3 body types as a human being, right? That law of the 3 different body types that we have as a human being goes into boxing profoundly. So watch how shorter guys with skill deal with taller guys with skill. So that's the first, because history repeats. Hence why I love history, because it does repeat. So I would have watched a lot of Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, the second fight. What was that? June 12th, 89, right? In Las Vegas, Caesars Palace. I'd have watched that fight. I'd have heavily watched that fight. For round 5, if you watch how Leonard sneakily shuffled in, throws an overhand right, then a left hook that wobbles Tommy Hearns, and watch the inside work that was portrayed by Sugar Ray Leonard, just by picking the shots, going around the side, coming up through the middle. Yarde should have done that, and he could have done that, I believe, earlier in the fight. He done it in round 12, which has a sticker on him, but that was more to do. All right, then let's just close the show. Also, what I would say is this: the effect of not having a crowd there affects both sides, because there is no crowd. And sometimes I think having more experienced people around in Tundi's corner, I believe, that could have helped him as well, because you got old guys in the fact of Pat Barrett, and I forgot the other guy who works in Pat Barrett's corner. But they're old enough to know the game. They're old enough to know the game. Pat Barrett was a former British and European champion. You know what I mean? And at one stage, what was it, 1988, he was muted being the man to knock out Julio Cesar Chavez. Do you remember that when he was with Mickey Duff? Right? So those are the things that I would say that maybe they could go and look on those kind of things. But in saying that, I'm going to keep on saying close fights are close fights. But what I'd want Anthony Yarde to do more is you're muting as the beast from the East. They want to see beast-like performances. The performance that we saw on the weekend wasn't a beast-like performance. I'm just keeping it 100. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm speaking out of love. It wasn't, but also I know in my hearts of hearts that Anthony Yarde could actually perform better than it. Because if you're noted as a puncher, and he is a puncher, don't get twisted. Do the thing that we're used to seeing you do. Hence why Mike Tyson got so much stick. What was it, in 1987? Going points with Tony Tucker. He got so much stick for going points with Bone Crusher Smith, who became Bone Clutcher Smith that night. Reason why? Because we're saying, well, you're that puncher. You're built in this mold. You're meant to be Allard, Roy Jones, a touch of Floyd, and Mike Tyson. So then you're meant to be given that because the general consensus is that you're this puncher. And it wasn't demonstrated because you were saying, I'm going to show you that I can tactically deal with you because you're not in my league. But someone did something to the fundamentals. And what you have to do is learn to take away the jab. If there's no right hand coming at you, you're meant to slide across for your left hook. You're meant to go left hook to the body, left hook to the head. And also, the in that fight, there was a lack of combinations that I think that will be readdressed in a rematch. If the rematch happens, because I spoke to Pat Barrett, he said, no rematch ain't happening for now. So it is what it is.
Oh, we said that, no rematch for now. Wow.
That's what Pat Barrett, I spoke to Pat Barrett yesterday.
Wow.
He phoned me up yesterday.
Wow.
Now, the next thing, to all Lyndon Arthur's fans and everybody else, Lyndon Arthur was saying that, I sent him a message one time, like, don't pull out the fight over on Twitter. It's the truth, I did. Because I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know Pat Barrett's guy. Now, Pat Barrett, he's manager trainer, right? Shows me the most love. Pat Barrett was refused his boxing board of control license to be a trainer manager. And we're going back maybe 8 years ago now. 2012, maybe. This when I was running Hard Knocks. I lobbied for Pat Barrett to get his license, right? Pat Barrett got his license off of the back of me lobbying for him. That's why Pat Barrett's the first person to tell people this. So this is how I am. If I've helped somebody, your success is my success. That's how I roll. You know what I mean? If I've helped someone get anywhere, and I'm the first person to help anybody, if you get somewhere off of the back of it, that success is mine. So that'd be kind of non-conducive for me to be hating on Pat Barrett, because Lyndon Arthur is a prodigy of Pat Barrett. It's all love right throughout the board. And Pat knows it because he phoned me up and said, nah, Spence, you're the guy. You know? He phoned me up yesterday and we spoke about the fight, and he was saying certain things, and I understand where he's coming from. But there is going to be a rematch because of the rematch clause. But Pat Barrett said the only clause that he knows of is Santa Claus, and he doesn't even believe in it. So, so the fight will happen, and I think what should have been addressed in the first fight will be addressed in the second fight. But you know what? Also, when you get wins, you improve as a fighter. Now, Lyndon Arthur's a massive underdog going into that fight. He got the win. That's only going to improve him. So it'd be a great fight. Still got any yard to knock him out this time, though.
Okay, so that kind of answers the question from Sarah Jane. Spencer, who do you think's the favorite in the rematch? You've answered it already. You said Anthony Yarde.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's a number of questions that are here. They're flooding in. I don't even know where to start. Okay. We'll start from Audi A-list TT. Spencer, respect to you, but did Tunde understand what he was watching, or was he, as many said, deluded? My wife could see the fight was paper thin.
Well, like I said, I think Tunde was on your channel yesterday, right, Pro?
Last night, yeah.
On your channel, I watched the video. And Tunde's admissions was that he had it 7-5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that answer,
Yeah.
that was paper thin. If you got a 12-round fight and somebody's saying that I won 5 of them and someone else is saying that, well, we won 5, we won 7 and you won 5, that's a very, very close. That's close. That is close. Because that's 7-5 in your perception when you're dealing with your fighter. So you're going to have favoritism anyway, right? So if someone's saying 7-5, that's a close fight. And then if that was the case, it was 7-5. When we say like, oh, you need to pull it out of the bag, I think the pressure applied by Andy Yarde should have taken place from round 10. So it should have gone, right, 10, 11, 12. Because from that time there, that's championship rounds. So if we're dealing with championship rounds, they're the rounds where you might say, right, then this separates the men from the boys. I'm going to show you how this thing goes. But Lyndon Arthur's done 12 rounds before. But he should have done that. He should have stuck it on him. So, no, I don't believe that Tundi is deluded because Tundi is believing in his fighter. And he's seeing things that his fighters doing, or the little subtle things that his fighters doing, and saying, yeah, my fighter won that round.
Benji, do you want to select one of the questions from one of the viewers and not Spencer? We'll take it in turns.
Unfortunately, it's from the same person who's just asked one. But right. It's quite a good question. It says, Spencer, why was Yarde just following Lyndon around the ring? Where was the cutting off? Why the counter punching?
Why the counter punching?
Yeah, Beez, can you see that comment? It's Audi alias TT again.
Okay, all right, I'll look for that comment. There's so many of them.
Yeah.
All right, maybe we'll take it from the first part. So I think what the viewer was saying that Yarde should have maybe cut the ring off more rather than allow Lyndon Arthur to circle it around the ring, utilizing the jab.
You know what? And I totally agree, because it's not like he can't cut off the ring. But I think on certain things we're taking away the credit from Lyndon Arthur because Pat Barrett, who I spoke to yesterday, was saying that their game plan was not to go back to the ropes in no way, shape, or form, and to take 2 steps one way, 1 the other way, 2 steps the other way, 3 the other way. So wherever you go, they keep on moving away from being cut off from the ring, and also from being cut off. If someone's sticking out a long jab, a long elongated jab like Lyndon Arthur, it's difficult to cut them off if you're not rolling your head and throwing shots downstairs. And unfortunately, we didn't see that demonstrated by Andy Yarde in the fight.
Did you see? Do you know what you're talking about? The approach, all right, of Lyndon Arthur. Now, I just remembered the Errol Spence fight, right? And I know you study fights, right? Did you see? See, this is why when we talk about elite fighters, right? You've got to talk about Errol Spence, because in the fight against Danny Garcia, Derek James instructed him to stay out of harm's way, that big left hook. So what I was seeing is, I was seeing Errol Spence going up top, then delivering body shots, and then rolling out.
Yeah.
Did you see that? I saw that. I said, yeah, that's drilled.
Yeah, that's right. And also for a southpaw, he was shuffling off of his right leg. As a southpaw, he was shuffling off of his left leg. So he shuffled over to his left because he was doing stabbing left shots down to his body to avoid that left hook. So
and then roll out.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's the difference. That's the difference. And when you're doing, like, don't get twisted, Tundi knows boxing, But like how it goes is this: when you're very unconventional, if things go wrong, then you're an idiot. When things are going right, then you're a genius. And that's what's happened with Tundi, unfortunately.
Okay. All right. So, all right, we'll pick another question. All right, Jermaine Sterling. Right. No relation, I don't think, to Raheem Sterling, the Man City football player. All right. So, do you think Tunde is getting caught up in the moment by forgetting the gum shield and not shouting nonsensical motivational instructions throughout the fight, and just shouting nonsensical motivation instructions?
Number one, the lines in the camp's actually not Tundi shouting that out. That's actually Adi, the big guy in the corner. That's number one. Obviously, it's a big fight, so people can get caught up in a moment. But then we go back to, was it 214? Was it 214 that Canelo Floyd fought? Was it 214, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2 years before the Amir Khan fight. Yeah.
Okay. Floyd Mayweather Sr. You got to say that Floyd Mayweather Sr. is one of the is the pioneer of this pad work and everything else. He's the pioneer of it. He forgot to give Floyd Mayweather his gum shield when he was fighting Canelo. At the time was Cinco de Mayo fight as well. It was the biggest fight of his career. Does that mean that Floyd Mayweather Sr. is caught up in that moment as well? Doesn't. Things happen. You get what I'm trying to say to you? This is the fight. This is the fight game. Things happen. But what it is this is when you talk in the way, or you talk so vehemently in the way that Tundi does, Lloyd Huntington always say to me, the higher the monkey climbs, the more that his back is exposed. So this is how it goes. So he's climbing, right?
Yeah.
And people can't wait for you to fall because it's not to the liking of how, you know what I mean, how other people want to comprehend it. And that is it. So yeah, I believe like he could have got caught up in it. You have to remember, his bond with Andy Yarde isn't just like boxer trainer relationship. They have a very, very strong relationship together, and they've built something together that has not been done. Now, just imagine, for instance, I remember Tundi's speech to Adidas. It took him 3 years to put that deal together, or something like that. And he put that deal together for Andy Yarde. If it was anybody else that put that deal together, you know what I mean? It'd be in the papers all the time. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because it was a global. It's my little girl in the background. It was a global deal that he got for Adidas. Why is that not spoken about? You know what I mean? Why is it not taking the fact that Andy Yarde, amateur and pro, has only had something like 30 odd fights, but he's a millionaire? Why don't I want to talk about that? You know what I mean? So what happens is this is, like I said, other people's successes, especially if you're a person who talks like Tundi, it will wind up certain people. Or it's like I like to say, like the God in them irritates the devil in them. So it is what it is. And that's that.
All right, Benji, you want to select a question? A nice juicy one for Spencer.
A nice juicy one. Okay. I don't know. It's a little bit difficult because, to be fair to Spencer, he's covered a hell of a lot of ground. Because there's a lot of questions coming in. There's a lot of questions coming in about coaching and would Yarde be better off going to Vegas, or would Yarde be better off here or there and anywhere?
Listen, whoever asked that question, would Yarde be better off going to Vegas? He's been to Vegas. He went to Vegas with Tundi. You know what I mean? He's been been some very, very good fighters in the gym. I ain't going to call their name because I don't want to disrespect no one, right? And I am truly of the belief, like, what happens in sparring actually should stay in sparring unless you run off your mouth on me, right? So he's been Vegas. You see, like all of a sudden now you see a lot of these British trainers, they're running out. It's a trend. It's a trend. When Freddie Roach was firing, everyone was going off to Freddie Roach's gym. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right, everyone. I'm packing my bags and going to Freddie Roach's gym. What were they learning in Freddie Roach's gym? They weren't learning nothing in Freddie Roach's gym. You know what I mean? When Floyd was at his height, everyone was running off to Vegas. Who was the first man to go out to Vegas and Floyd's gym? Was Tundi. He went there saying, well, boy, I've learned this system from Roger Mayweather, which he's built on top of that, right? But sometimes, like, fighting isn't just pad work. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of different facets that we got to cover when we're dealing with fighting, when we're dealing with boxing. You know what I mean? And range for anyone who's even sparred, right? Just, you're not a fighter and you've just sparred. I tell you, to get range is not easy. It's not easy at all. Especially when you're dealing with it's difficult. I mean, it's not. So when they're talking about go Vegas,
Mm.
they should go Vegas to do they've been Vegas. A matter of fact, let's just be real. Tundi gets more love in America than he will get in the UK. Because when he's out in America, there's a reason why Bill Haney was begging him to leave England to go and train his son in America. Devin Haney's now WBC world champion. Right? We don't talk about that because he don't. But this is I'm telling you facts. You know what I mean? They was asking him to join the Mayweather camp so he could be a trainer in there. And the other trainers in Mayweather's camp are on Tundi. So it is what it is, man. It's like.
Do you feel? So to cut you, Spencer. Do you feel like Tunde is getting like silly amount of criticism for another sort of agenda? Because you remember when Rob McCracken got the same his criticism that he got after the Joshua defeat was massive. I remember every YouTube video, right, and all the comments. Oh, Joshua needs to get rid of McCracken. I feel like it's a similar thing at the moment with Tunde. There's a lot of heat like that. It's very similar.
It's similar, but it's different. And you know it's different. I'm getting into that today. You know what I mean? I'm tired of talking about these kind of things. You know what I mean? Because I certainly know when Robert McCracken was getting a stick. Yeah. It still wasn't as bad as what Tundi's getting right now. Do you know what I mean? Because you hear the little innuendos in the tonalities of certain literature that's being spoken out against him. You know what I mean? I never once heard Eddie Hearn say that he's gonna have a word with Robert McCracken about the unconventional training methods that they were doing. Do you get what I'm trying to say to you? I never heard that.
That was quoted as being in the Daily Mail. That's what I asked Tunde yesterday.
Yeah.
I saw something in the Daily Mail.
Right, Jeff Powell wrote that about what Frank Warren said, right? And he was saying, oh, but Anthony Yarde's staying loyal to Babatunde Ajayi, but he's questioning why he's staying loyal to him. Now, loyalty is royalty. Now, he's staying loyal to his guy because he knows what he's got. He knows what they're built together. Now, when man is saying, oh, well, then, listen, man, could you imagine, like, everybody's just on this right now? And I'm not, listen, everyone, you got to do what you have to go and do. You know what I mean? What is this? It's like, if you're not happy with yourself as a human being, and then you're seeing someone get success, but then they're kind of in your face with it. It's like people get upset with people for being happy. You know what I mean? They do. So you see Tunde, he's just a guy that is happy. You know what I mean? Because he understands that the suggestion that made to yourself is more powerful than the suggestion made by others. So he's going to have these suggestions to himself, and then people are going to deem it as it's delusion of grandeur, or it's da da da. You know what I mean? When people turn around and say, oh, he's full of himself, so who else is he meant to be full of? Is he meant to be full of somebody else? You're meant to be full of yourself, period. But on certain things, people confuse confidence and self-belief with cockiness and arrogance. And there's a thin line. So we have to demonstrate a sublime confidence without it being portrayed as being cocky.
But isn't it part also, like for some people, just trying to drum up some entertainment as well? Because we need characters in boxing also as well. It's not just about, you can fight, but we need a bit of that bravado as well. That's what Money May had. Understand? Danny Garcia. Yeah.
And this is why Tunde's winning. You know why? Because I've jumped on this thing and we've spent the last 25 minutes speaking about him. That we're empowering him. And that's that. And all these people saying they should do this, and he ain't going nowhere, you know. I guarantee you ain't going nowhere. And you're gonna hear all of it. I'm sticking on him tomorrow on The Fight Is Right. You guys tune in right on our podcast on the reels, because without like fundamentals of boxing, tactical administration and stuff, I really study boxing. Like constantly, I study this game, right? And so therefore, I've got to be honest with him and Yarde, the fight that they had on the weekend, and I've got to be honest. But he knows this because we've had the honest talk. We had the honest talk on Sunday morning, right? But at the time when I watched the fight off of an IG stream because I ain't got BT, right? And I watched it off of an IG stream, and then I watched it off the IG stream. I couldn't really see the fight too well and that. But then I watched it in the morning, and I saw a totally different fight. I think Yarde could have performed better, and it was a close fight. So there are things that they're gonna have to improve on and show us and implement his improvement. I believe he can do it anyway.
All right. I'll tell you to close. I think we've got to touch on the AJ fight this weekend. Yeah. All right. Guys, get your questions in about Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev this weekend, the return of AJ. All right. Looking forward to it, Spencer. Anthony Joshua got redemption a year ago, and now he's got the challenge of Pulev to deal with this weekend.
Do you remember when Anthony Joshua first fought John Ruiz? Andy Ruiz. Right, when he fought Andy Ruiz, and I was saying to everybody, this ain't no easy fight for Anthony Joshua, right? And I think at that time they were more concerned in chasing Deontay Wilder or trying to sort out something with Deontay Wilder and blah 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 blah. And his mind wasn't on the job at all. I know when his mind's on the job. Because when his mind's on the job, prior to the fight, me and we'll speak, and I'll drop what I have to drop and all the rest of it. Free of charge as well, right? And, right? And he's in a different place. Compared to that guy then, he's in a different space. And I don't believe that Pulev, what has Pulev really got? I know Bob Arum is adamant that Pulev's going to beat Anthony Joshua. You know what I mean? But why would you even want it to happen when you got a mega fight set down with a guy that you promoted, Tyson Fury? You know what I mean? No, Anthony Joshua's going to come through this fight. And I'm looking for I could see Anthony Joshua comprehensively outpointing Pulev, right? On a nuts one, right? And doing it way better than he did against Ruiz in the Ruiz fight, where he opted in the second fight, where he opted to box. But I don't see that. I see Anthony Joshua reverting back to type or being this tough guy, because in there with an old man and fighting at high pace, like double jab right hand, very basic, but double jab right hand. I think that's going to be the key. That he's going to come with a left hook, but double jab right hand. And I see him stopping Pulev 8-10, but he could go out there and say, "Look, I'm just going to stick it on you, and we'll see what you got." But I could see around about 8-10, and Joshua stopping him.
All right. First of all, I'd like to pick up Allah Kuamba for the super chat donation to the channel. Thanks for that, mate. Thanks for supporting. All right. There's a question to you, Spencer, about this fight. All right. Pep, please ask Knowledge, should AJ come into the fight heavy or stay similar like Ruiz 2 fight a year ago?
No, because I think the Ruiz 2 fight, he was actually basing everything on movement and speed, right? I think this fight with Pulev is hello? Yeah.
Yeah, Spencer. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was Tony just trying to phone me. Look at that. That's the powers, man. Yeah. I'm saying I could see him coming in a little bit more heavier, and throwing punches and bunches, but throwing hurtful punches. So in the Ruiz fight, he had to come in light because he knew that I'm gonna have to move in this fight. I'm gonna have to be moving. I'm gonna be on my feet. I'm gonna be throwing jabs. I'm going up to body and head. and I'm going to be changing the trajectory. There's all time when he thinks he's going to be set to throw a shot at me, I'm going to be gone. He doesn't need to do that with Pulev. Pulev is not really a concussive puncher. He's a hurtful puncher, he's not a concussive puncher. You know what I mean? Not once did Pulev hurt Derek Chisora. So, no, I can see Pulev knows that he's going to start quick because Pulev knows as soon as it goes past round 7, he's in trouble. He knows this. No, Pulev knows this. He's not a dummy. He knows boxing. But I think Pulev has got very good hands, but he hasn't got the best feet. And I think that could be a problem for him. I think it could be a big problem for him because he's going to try and tee off his right hand. And as he does try to tee off his right hand, I can see Andy Joshua counting him with a left hook. And when Andy Joshua hits him now, he'll go after it.
All right, Benji, do you want to select any of the questions? We've got 5 minutes left.
Well, a question that I'm going to slightly adapt is totally simple. Does AJ need a really big, impressive performance here? Because obviously, last 2 fights, both against Andy Ruiz, lost one by getting stopped. The second fight, okay, in my opinion, comprehensively won it, outboxing Ruiz. But, you know, for people who just want to see an all-out war of a contest, that wasn't it. So does AJ need to do something really impressive and explosive in this fight, in your opinion, Spencer?
No, he doesn't. Who asked that question, Benji?
That's just me, mate. That's just one from me.
All right, cool. Where you from, Benji?
Birmingham.
It's not your fault. I forgive you, but yeah, it's all cool. But no, honestly, just maybe no, he doesn't. The reason why, because Frank Warren's right now talking to people right now. I know this for certain. Talking to people now about this AJ versus Fury fight. So I think AJ just needs to win, because in the world that we're living in right now with this pandemic and everything else, survival is the new success. So just get the win, right? Get the win. You want to impress us when you fight Tyson Fury. I'm not saying give us no boring fight because he ain't gonna be. Because he's got, in my opinion, I believe that he's gonna stop Pulev. And I told you 8 to 10, but I've got a sneaky feeling that he's gonna done him in round 5. I don't know why. I just got this feeling that he's gonna done him in round 5. You know, I like to go back to things when I quote him and I can post them up. But I just got a feeling that AJ could done him, like properly done him, like bad man thing. You know what I mean? A goose, pounded jam. You know what I mean? Right.
Jollof rice. Yeah.
Right,
All right.
Right. So jollof. Right. I can see AJ banging him out, but he still needs to impress us. But the main focus shouldn't be overly impress us. The major thing is just to get the win, because, like I said, with this pandemic, survival is the new success.
Right. Last question from RDR Films. Spence, do you think heavyweights need to incorporate the double and triple jabs into their game? Only a select few uses it.
Bro, you know what nuts that is? What's that? RDR Films? Yes, I do. This is really crazy that you asked me that. Last week, I was speaking to a young man who I'm working with now, called Ezra Taylor. Very good light heavyweight prospect. And I'm just here for tactical advice for him. And we was talking about the doubling up of the jab and the tripling of the jab. It's unseen now. You mean last night I was watching an old who was he fighting? Henry Clark. An old Sonny Liston fighting a guy called Henry Clark. I think that was like 68, 67, something like that, right? 68 it was. And even though Sonny Liston on paper was 36, 37 years old, we know he was a lot older than that because he didn't even know when he was born. And Sonny Liston, as an old man, was throwing out the double and triple jab as an old man, right? It's a shot that has been neglected, and that's why I like watching all fights, bro. It's a shot that's been ridiculously neglected, and if heavyweights were to incorporate that in their game, the heavyweight division would be more exciting to the fact that if I could touch you 3 times with a jab, you know, a right and left hook and an uppercut's coming with it. But because everyone tees off for these power shots right now, because the emphasis is just everyone's so pent up. You know what I mean? And I can tell, you know what I mean? Have you got children, Benji?
Not yet, mate. Not
When
yet.
they're
Got it
coming.
all to look forward to. Hopefully.
Not that he knows of. Not that he knows of.
I'm gonna break it right? A few days ago, I spoke to Mike McCallum, one of the greatest ever did. Right? Mike McCallum, my really good friend. So we speak regular. I like speaking to these old guys because they always told me something that I may have forgotten. And Mike McCallum said to me that these guys, they're so tense, they're so they don't know you can pepper a man with a jab. Right? So and this is very, very important. So while saying that, when you're making love, Benji, I know you got a partner, right? You got a partner.
Yeah, I'll make sure my wife gets to see this later.
So you're married as well, yeah? Right.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. When you're making love and you're busting up quick, right?
It's
But
happened.
when you are relaxed and you're in the motion, you can make love for 2-3 hours. That I guarantee. This, you know what that does? Burns you out. You're lucky if you get 15 minutes. You ain't getting 15 minutes. If you get 10 minutes, you're lucky. You know what I mean? I'm an experienced man. I have this is the same adjective in boxing. When you don't last, man. Be relaxed. Get the flow. Pop the jab. It's so important. Pop the jab. And the maddest thing is this: I only started to understand boxing when I retired from boxing. It's only started to come to me when I retired from boxing. When I went in it, then when I started working with fighters, then I started to get it. I thought, bloody hell, you know what? I've wasted a career here, you know. But it don't matter because I've got a new career now.
In some ways, I was actually talking to Dean White the other day, and I was saying the jab is like cooking. Again, the same thing. You know, you're preparing the food up until it's ready to serve. So you're marinating the food, you're getting it ready, you're cooking it slowly, and then you have the food.
No,
so
the jab is the seasoning. That's all it is.
The seasoning.
Okay. The jab is the seasoning. I mean, to many of my European people, I know you're not seasoning, but what I'm trying to say to you is this, right? In my culture where I come from, I mean, my mom would season chicken 2-3 days. So it marinates in there. That's what the jab is. The jab is a marinator. That's all it is. Hence why it's the first thing that we're taught, but we don't even use it no more. It's not. It's not used no more. It is. Just watch great jabbers. Watch Joe Lewis's jab. Yeah? Joe Lewis's jab just wasn't a rangefinder, you know. It's to tear out your teeth. Watch Tommy Hearns' jab. Weren't just a rangefinder, you know. Tommy Hearns' jab was like a right hand. You know what I mean? So there's so many different variations of their jab where you have to study, guys. You see, this is really, I would say to anyone, watch Mike McCallum, James Toney, the first fight, 1991. Watch that fight. Know how to position yourself to throw your jab, and you'll learn. Because the jab's the key. That is the key. To anything in this sport boxing, the jab's the key. And if heavyweight championship boxing is meant to be the biggest prize in sport, meant to be, then it should be held in that same valor. And where you're seeing guys that do it. And when you say like the only few guys, what's that? RDR films, there's only a few guys that throw the jab. Tyson Fury is one of them that throws the jab. And he throws it with confidence because he learned it. Do you know what I mean? But not many guys do throw that jab. You know what I mean? Dylan White's got a very good jab. But yeah, that's it.
I mean, you think back to like Lennox Lewis and how dominant Lennox Lewis was. His main, in my opinion, one of his main weapons in his arsenal was a very, very good jab. He doubled it up. It was strong. He marched forward with it. He found range with it. As soon as Lennox, had that fight with Vitali, then retired, we had this space in boxing where, we had the Klitschko's. But outside the Klitschko's, before Fury really came along, I can't really name a good jabber in that era of heavyweight boxing.
And I have to agree with you. If you go back to, what was it? 94? October 94 or 93? October 94, when he fights Frank Bruno.
Yeah.
Frank Bruno, 93 actually. Frank Bruno was out jabbing Lennox Lewis. Right? A lot of people seem to forget that. Frank Bruno was out jabbing Lennox Lewis. Frank Bruno had a ramrod jab. Right? So, since the Klitschko's, and the Klitschko jabs were boring. They're very good jabs, but they were boring jabs. You know what I mean? It was a very effective jab, but it was boring. The two of them were boring, bro. I'm not telling you they're not greats. They're greats, but they were boring as hell. Lennox Lewis was quoted as being boring when he was fighting until he retires. We start thinking, Rob, we missed Lennox, you know? Lennox Lewis's jab was incredible. He had an educated jab. I remember when he fights, what was that? In 2000, was that November? Yeah, November 2000 when he fights David Tua, and everyone, America, all of America, and all these so-called experts, Larry Merchant, and all these guys, Lennox is going to get beat, he's going to get knocked out, and he schooled my man with a jab. I remember after fighting, he said, "Listen, you got a couple more than just punching power and a funny haircut to beat me, you know." And that's how it goes. And the jab is true fundamentals of the sport, and you got to learn the different variation of it. Lennox Lewis mastered the jab, so I would like to see guys start to throw the jab again, but I'm tired of talking. But you know why? Because what I realized is this, and Chris Eubank Senior said this to me 3 days ago. What we got in today's society is we have trainers who are PT instructors. That's what they are. You know what I mean? Right? That's what we got now. We ain't got guys who really sit down and study the game. So we've got training. So therefore, it's going to be perpetuated by the fighters. So fighters ain't jabbing properly no more. Heavyweight fighters, they don't jab anymore. Watch fights. And I'm free to pass this knowledge. I'm not looking for no payment, you know. Because I want to see the sport that I love thrive. And it can only thrive by the fighters. And it can only thrive by the trainers. But like I said, a lot of the trainers out there are fish and chips trainers, mate. Go on, son, break first, son. That's not frigging training.
You know what? Tonight is my first coaching session back since lockdown, so I'm going to go and see the kids tonight. Only the sort of 13, 16-year-old kids that I'm going to be coaching this evening. We're just going to be doing a lot of jabbing. That's it. All we're going to do this evening, we're just going to be jabbing with them, and I'm going to be telling them the importance of it.
Listen, thank you very much, Benji, because you may have tomorrow's superstar inside your gym. And he's going to remember the day that he learned that, when they say like, a right hand takes you around the corner, a good jab takes you around the world. Yeah. And it's the truth. And if you look at great jabbers were based on timing and based on position of throwing a jab. And knowing how to smash you with a jab. So you may get hit so much, you get hit all outside the head with a jab. I tell you a great fight to go and watch. It was April of '89. Mike McCullough versus Michael Watson. Mike McCullough jabbed Michael Watson silly. Michael Watson was a great fighter, and he jabbed him silly. And Michael Watson would say, "Look, Mike McCullough didn't even hit me hard," and it's the truth, he didn't. But you collapsed through exhaustion. You got knocked out in the 11th round through exhaustion. So the jab's the key.
All right. I think that's it for us, Spencer. Spencer, I'd like to thank you once more for coming on, man. You've done it from day one, literally the first video. So
it's cool. Let me just pick up Benji. Very, very nice speaking to you, Benji. And may I ask Benji, when did you convert to Islam, brother?
yeah. But he used to be clean shaven. Yeah.
I say salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all my Muslim brothers and sisters. And I'm saying this, the only way the world can improve is if we spread love. Period. To everyone.
I can get on board with that. I can definitely get on board with that.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Later.
Thank you. All right, guys. We out, sure. Smash that like button and subscribe if you ain't subscribed. It's that simple. Benji, good show. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks very much for having me. back on your platform again. I look forward to the next one. And of course, absolutely looking forward to this weekend of boxing action.
AJ versus Pulev. This weekend, it's going down.
And don't forget Channel 5 Friday. Sam Eggington, Ashley Tierpayne is a full weekend of boxing. There's lots to get our teeth into. Sorry, mate.
And you reminded me, I might actually try and get Tierpayne on. So, all right, interesting one. Stay tuned for that, guys. If you ain't already, tune into that Tunde Ajayi exclusive interview last night. Worth a watch. All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Thank you.